All right, y'all. That's a little zoomed in. Hello to myself. It's probably going to be really hard to see this. Hopefully not. Here's what we're going to do. This is for us to remember our stuff. We have storylines that we're going to be talking about, like where they go. We're plotting, essentially. And going forward, we know that it's going to branch off. These group of people are going to be doing this thing. This group of people are going to be doing that thing. And then another group of people are going to be doing something else. So I'm trying to get that in order. So we start from the beginning. We just start with the characters that we have. And the characters start with Cypherus and Eris. Those are the main characters at the beginning of the actual whole story. And they meet. We're just going to do very simple. I'm not going to go through the whole fucking plot here. They meet in Aval. And from Aval, they move to Refuge. And from Refuge, they meet Nacum. And that becomes the trio of important people in this story. But they also meet a girl named Aya, who will become important later. From there, they flee. Then in August, the town of the Merfolks, they meet someone named Anna. Now we have the main people. Eris, Cypherus, Nacum, Anna, Djal, and Vasha. But Cypherus moves on to his own story. Thanks for the whole thing. Cypherus' story is separate now. Then we have Eliminate. And so from there, let's just... I'm not really good at this kind of stuff, but we'll figure it out. We have these storylines that are going to be happening. We have Eris, Djal, Anna, Vasha, and Nakim. They are going to be together for the rest of Book 1. Cypherus will have his story, so technically in Book 1 we're only going to have 2 characters. I think Anna will come later. We'll probably push her into Book 2 or something, we'll see. But Anna is out here. We can put her over here as well. Or sorry, Aya. That's the, I don't know, like, not a princess, what are they called? She's Ferosamire heir to the throne. She's got her own story. So these guys will go to the end of Book 1, and then from that point, that's when it starts getting complex. Book 1's easy. Book 2 is where things start opening up. So by Book 2, we're going to have eventually Eris, Anna, and Djal. That is their story. We will have Cypherus' story, Aya's story, Nakim, and Vasha's story. 1, 2, 3, 4 moving stories. Cypherus' story will always be in kind of following Eris, Anna, and Djal, essentially. This is going to be whenever something happens, he's going to be like, oh, okay, here's going to explain what happened. Here's what we're doing. We're chasing them. You know, that shit. 1, 2, 3 moving stories. But then it goes further because Nacum and Vasha meet Alastra and his men. Alastra and company. They meet those guys. I don't remember how many's in the company, but I know it's more than 2. So we have that going on. These guys will meet that Anaku guy. What's the name I gave him? I don't remember. We're just going to say that an Anaku. And then they go into the refuge and all that shit. And then they see everything that happens at refuge, blah, blah, blah. Story, story, story. So we have introduction of characters. Now this becomes a 4-piece. This is a gathering of a gaggle of fucking idiots, including these two, who are kind of rivals to each other because of Jaal. So it creates this kind of character development thing where these two people love or care about the same person, but they don't care about each other. Perfect, right? We can explore that. And then you have Alastra and all his people, and then they will also meet Vathia and his fucking like battalion of men, like a bunch of people. Like, this is the story that has the most people. This is going to be, if this is in other stories, if this is like Luke and his bullshit, this would be Han and Leia and all them, Empire Strikes Back. If this is Frodo, this is Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas doing their shit. That's kind of the vibe I'm sensing here as this is going forward. So you have this one here will, Nakim attached to Alastra, attached to Vathia, will be handling more of the political and big world problems. So people can kind of sense what's happening in the world. They can kind of see like, okay, this is, clearly there's a lot going on here instead of just this Eris thing and prophecy and bullshit. Like, there's a lot more happening. You have the stuff with Tantorum, you got the stuff with Lyria, you have possible weird shit with Serpentine Order. Maybe when they discover that, you have a whole mess of fucking problems. And it's just world problems. It's just opening your eyes and realizing there's a lot more at stake than just Adrana, essentially. Or anything that was following suit, even the Murphos to some degree. This is when it starts to get complicated. And this will be the people that help create the situation where we kind of see it all played out. But the one thing is that they can't do, they can talk about the South's understanding of it. They can talk about Tantorum's understanding of it. They can talk about Voss in general, but no one can really mention anything when it comes to what's going on back in Adrana. That's what Aya's for. Aya and her, she will meet someone named Sorvo, and between Aya and Sorvo, they will give the story of what's going on in Adrana, so the reader can kind of understand what's happening back home. Eris is home. He's not going to be able to go back because he's too busy in Trinity Forest. How can we explain the shenanigans that are going on back there? Well, I had to create Anna and Sorvo so they can kind of tell us what's going on in Aval. That's the main thing here. The main thing here, it's not, I'm just going to say world plight. Like, everything that's just going on in the entirety of the known world, these guys will explore it because they either have a full connection to or a partial connection to. So like Vathia is connected to Tantorum. He understands what happened with Gearlore and all that stuff, and he has some understanding of Lyria. He has some understanding of something that might be going on in Dubois. Same with Alastra. They would have understanding of Dubois partially, but mostly the South. But he also understands the things going on in the rest of the South, like Sarcia and the other one, whatever that one's called. They all have different understandings of each other. So I think that really plays well into it. So the main bulk of the story when it comes to like, I don't want to just say like how many pages, but this right here is very, very important. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 different stories going on essentially at the same time, and I don't know how it's going to play out in what book, you know, because at this point we just have it broken up into acts, and we have it broken up into like part 1 is the part of like Eris's journey to the forest, and then how many acts are in that. Part 2 is the whole, this part is, that's how it's broken down, and each character I'm in the process of breaking it down to that level. And then at that point, it would be puzzle piecing how, what story belongs where, and when does Aya come up? When's the best time for her? It might be book 2, but hell, it might be book 3. Who knows? It might be book 1. You know, we don't really know. It's just like, lay out everybody's story. Every person you have, just lay their story out. Tell me a description of Alastra, here he is, boom. And then just kind of say he, blah, 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 whoever he is, maybe some things he's going through. And then after that, we say, okay, tell me what you want to happen to him. And then we'll break it up. So you'd say part one will be his journey from the south to the harbor of Wraith or whatever fucking city he lands in. Part one. Part two will be from Wraith to the Gale. Boom. And then from Gale to, meeting the Naked and Vasha. Bam. And then the next part would probably be like Hill 464. And then you say, okay, we got a lot. Now you go back into each one of those parts and you say, okay, act one. What is going to happen in this small act? What is the conflict? What is the resolution? What are the characters' wants? What are the characters' needs? Just simple shit like that. Just kind of solve those little puzzles. And then you can create story by basically starting from the outside and working your way in. The story is here. You want to figure out the end result. Then you just start contracting in until you go beat by beat. And when you're ready, you can write it because you know, I'm going here. We are going here. I also kind of know points I want to touch on, character development wise, in getting there. So it's just like, you just gotta have to fill in the blanks. It's not too hard, but it's a lot simpler than starting from scratch and just writing, completely blank. That's something you could do just to kind of, maybe makes you just, I don't even know how to word it, just keep it fresh, or just, try to expand your skills a little bit. But the whole point of this, again, is to talk about the storylines that I have, at least. There are a few more characters here and there, but the idea is, you know your main cast, you should probably start figuring out the people that help them along the way that are very important. Like, for instance, Eris, Ann, and Jal. Jal and Vasha were support characters to help them through a situation like the Murphos. Then when they broke up, this kid, I forgot his name, but the new Anaku May, he is there to help them be their guide in the forest, essentially. So you just got to create sometimes characters that are important in that way, where you're just helping them. I don't know what's going to happen with him. We're just going to let it run and we're going to see what happens. And maybe he becomes important, maybe he doesn't. But he has a part to play. And I think I did go kind of far with him in terms of the story, or like what I want to do with him and the Serpentine Order. I thought that's perfect. This would give an opportunity to tempt an Anaku with, what is that word? Not idealism, but it's not patriotism. It's just crazy. The idea of what the Anaku think they should do for their people. And you can take an Anaku character and see how he reacts to it. Does he see the betterment of his people in doing something a bit wrong? Or is he going to have a heart about it and realize maybe this isn't the way we should be going? So that's what I would do with him. And then, bam, that just expands more philosophy, more mythology, because all the stuff that could happen inside of here. But I think that's the main important thing when it comes to doing all this, is each character will have its own philosophy. So again, this Anaku character, the philosophy of doing what is right for all the wrong reasons, doing something heinous but possibly with good intention, saving people if it means destroying another group of people, like that kind of stuff. It's pretty simple. So it's like, we're going to face him with that, and then the reader can kind of come upon that. The story of Eris is the obvious one. The one you kind of have to do is the hero story. But understanding that maybe, like, the hero is sacrifice, right? You have to sacrifice yourself and all that shit. But it's this story of watching this hero not understand not only how to be, just like anyone, like any story will have that the hero doesn't understand, but not want to be, maybe not even take it seriously, not understand. It's just like bumbling through it. He's got a lot going on. And each individual character has their own thing, and that's where you have to come up with the conflict resolution of each act, so you can kind of see what is like Jaal's overall thing. Cypress, for instance, is like the it's kind of a dark story as well, where it's like he's knowingly taking someone to be killed, but trying to justify in his mind that this is a good idea, this is something that should be happening, to save someone that he cares about. Will you kill someone else to save someone you love? Most people would probably say yes, sadly. But like, you have that, but you also have him knowing. I just wanted to carry this character in such a way where you're watching him knowingly do things that they're very wrong, and he knows it. But the part that I will do is just like make people hear the justifications of what happens when you spiral down into that darkness like that. What do you do when you really are trying to fool yourself into thinking you're doing the right thing? Cypress is that character. He's like a lot of people. And in Sorvo, I'm still in the works of this, so it's not like it's anything's in stone. Like, there's certain things that I'm just like, what exactly do I want to convey here? What is it that I think Nahum is still kind of elusive to me. Like, there's certain things I understand what I'm trying to do with him, and at the same time I don't know. So it's like Nahum's kind of story is about standing up for himself, letting go of grudges and regrets and all that stuff, and letting things become whatever they become, instead of trying to force everything. And that's kind of what he does, but at the same time he doesn't really stand up for anything or anyone. He never really had a chance to understand why one would do that. So you're watching someone kind of come from a very selfish place, but at the same time unselfishly, in a way. It's weird. So him, I'm still working that out. Alestra and company, that's not mine, so I don't know. And then Vathia is not mine either, clearly. Those two, that's their thing. I don't know what they're trying to do, but it's got to happen. It's just sitting there, nothing's happening, you know. Or we'll work on it, and then for 15-20 minutes, then it's like, okay, this is intense, too much. We can't keep giving up like that, where it's just like, just because it's hard. It's like, this is I mean, the thing is, if it's that hard, we don't need to do anymore. We'll stop writing. But it's that hard, because it's not going to get done. Plain and simple. So my idea is to try to encourage a little bit more thought towards the book. And this isn't really that big of a deal. Like, for me, this has just been a couple days of just thinking of like, okay, not even like hours, like literally an hour here, 2 hours there, 3 hours actually typing and all that. Like, it's not like it's a fucking job where you gotta sit down from 9 to 5 and do this. This just happens. You just gotta keep thinking about this. You gotta keep letting it be a part of your life. If you want to write the story with me, then it's just, free time, dude. Sometimes at work, just sitting there and things will just pop in my head. I'll just jot it down, and then I'll go home and hash it out when I got time. I only got one day off this week, so I don't really have a whole lot of time, but I usually devote one day to the book, as much as I possibly can. And that doesn't mean more than 8 hours. Sometimes it's only 2 hours in the entire day where I find the actual momentum and the ideas flow enough where I'm like, dude, I can just run with this and we'll see what happens. And I've been working on a whole thing because everyone's mind's different. Like, for me, I don't like all these unknowns. I can't handle it. I can't handle looking at the map and not knowing names of all the little places. It fucks with me. I can't. There's no way I can do it. I'm creating a bestiary. I need to know what fucking animals and creatures and monsters live in this world. I'm creating the plot thing I'm working on right now. I'm also doing the magic according to anyone. So each race is what magic is to them. Because I need to know. I can't keep guessing in my head every time I'm writing, like, what these people do, or what does this mean to them. Like, I'm done with that shit. It just bothers me. I have to know everything before I make any decision. So that's why it takes me so long. But I don't know why it would take others long. I don't know. So we have to figure that out. We have to find ways to make it easier, because it's like, that's what this is about. If something's hard, then you need to simplify it. That's all you got to do. If thinking about a character is too difficult, well, let's find ways to simplify it and say, okay, well, how can I work on a character and I don't understand this and that? Like, I know Jacob, for instance, is really good when it comes to characters. Because why wouldn't he be? Because of the stuff that he did in his life, with the games that he played and all that stuff, and then the, what is it called? Role-playing and all that stuff, has created a situation where you can identify instantly character development problems and resolutions of conflicts, all this shit, like instantly. So it's like, you can do that. You just gotta write it down. That's all you gotta do. Just write all that down. And then I think with Kevin, he doesn't come from that background. He doesn't come from this whole character creation background. That's his like trouble that he has, where it's like, you can do it, but he's just starting farther back on the line than someone like Jacob, who is ahead of both of me and Kevin. Because I never did any of this shit. I never wrote stories, or when I played video games, I didn't pay attention to the story or the characters. I didn't give a fuck. I just went and did objectives. That's just who I am. Objective, objective, objective. Fuck the side quests. Who cares about the characters and their feelings? I don't give a fuck. And so that's what I did. So like, to me, I'm starting at from scratch too when it comes to creating characters and plots and all that shit. You know, I didn't read books growing up, so I don't, you know, we're all coming from somewhere different, so we just got to kind of figure out how the hell we're going to get there. And I know that, you know, it's really easy to say you don't have time, but we all know that's bullshit. There's no such thing as not having time. If no one has time for anything, there's no way. There's no way someone's life is that busy. It's just like, people don't want to do it, and I understand it. I didn't want to do it. I don't remember if it was like 4-month to 5-month break of this book. I just took time off. I said, I'm done right now. This is just too much. And just like always, you come back and you're better. I'm already solving so many problems just because I took that break. I came back and I'm at a point where I'm always better off. It's the same thing with like music or something. You take a break, you come back, and you can just play better. You just understand more. It's just life experience. So that's where we're at in this book. And I want to see where everyone else is. Like for me, I love creating all this shit. I love making the world and the characters and this and that. I don't like writing the actual story. I fucking dread it because I hate it. I don't like journeys. I don't like that shit. I don't like to talk about how they got there. I hate it. If I could hire someone to actually write the story and I can do all this stuff, I would be in heaven. Because I just hate fucking writing stories. But I love building the world and the people in it, and all the factions and all the lands, the flora, the fauna, the conflicts, the alliances, character development. I love that. I just love doing that shit. But just fuck, God, I hate just typing out. Like, and then he walked to the room and looked around and saw there was a woman. I hate that shit so much. So that's kind of, I mean, we all have our own little struggles with that, man. That'd be awesome if someone else, like Jacob or Kevin, like would be more interested in actually writing the day-to-day, because that'd be awesome. But I'm pretty sure all of us hate it. But that's just something you got to get over, you know. I mean, hell, I think I wrote up 100,000 words already of the day-to-day story, and I'm not a big fan of it all, but I did it. I fucking wrote it, and just got to edit it later. Anyway, this kind of turned into something different as usual. But I just wanted to lay out how, for my characters, I guess that would be a tangent that just happened, how my characters' stories will kind of branch apart. Because from this point, then it gets crazier. Then you have Eris doing something completely alone. And then these other characters will have to find ways to break apart from each other, or, you know, maybe Nakim and Vasha, something happens to one of them. And then Jal is reunited with Vasha. Or maybe he's not. I don't know. It's just, I think the farther away a story structure or the actual main story is, the farther away it is, the more vague it has to be to leave so much more open. But the closer it is, you just got to know more and more and more. So like I can tell you that I know a lot from the first book, and I know exactly what's going to happen in the second book. I'm not even done writing the first book, but I already know the entirety of the second book. Third book, it kind of starts trailing away. I don't really know. I mean, I do, but I mean, like I know the main objective, but it's just like this whole space here is so vague. Anything could happen. That's what the whole point of this is to just, and it's okay to leave that blank like that. Not even blank, just vague. Because you never know. You're like, oh, you know how it would be really cool if this happened, and then you can make that happen instead of being, well, no, it can't, because remember he's on this continent now and he can't do that. It's just you can't. I don't know. Maybe you can. I haven't gotten there yet. This is my first book, so I don't really know. But for myself, I have to like have it all written out physically, because I know maybe some people are good at like talking in their heads, but maybe they're not, because nothing's getting done. We could talk all day for hours, me, Kevin, and Jacob, about the book. But to me, nothing got done. Because it's like, well, it's still confusing. No one agreed on the story. We still don't know exactly why this is happening. And so for me, it's great. It's like brainstorming and stuff like that, but it's not solving anything. It's just getting around talking about something and then walking away and going like, well, now what? Do we do that or not? I don't know. That's where I always leave and just think all the time, I don't understand. I don't feel like we solved anything. I'm glad I recorded it. And I go back and listen and I just hear it's so all random. Try to stay on topic, but we never do. But since I'm alone, and then the other two, this is me trying to help. I'm going to create more. I'm going to make another one with a screen capture, probably. That'd be the best way. And just lay out, here's how I'm doing it, what I'm doing. And I'm going to solve it. But I wanted to show a visual one. I don't even know if you can see this, because I can't quite see what the camera sees. Hopefully it can see. If not, I mean, I feel like what I said laid it out well enough. But I think that's all for this one. And then, again, till next time, I will make another one talking about all the other stuff I'm doing. That I'm creating a portfolio. Essentially, like I'm creating a companion book. If you ever like have fantasy, there always have these companion books. It's like, if you ever like, what the fuck? You can look and see all the stuff that they made in there. That's essentially what I'm making, is a companion book for Jacob and Kevin. So you guys can see everything. No more confusion. No more like, well, did he say that this or that? It's all going to be in there. It's going to take a while to make, but at the same time, it's fleshing out the world. And finally making things solid instead of like so vague. Like, they could be this, but they might not be. I'm done. I'm done with that. I want to solid and say, this is here, this exists, that's there. They're at war with these people. This race is extinct now, blah, blah, blah. Like, I want it to be like all in the open at this point. But that's it. I'll make the next video.